My name is Oshagan, and I'm a multi-disciplinary artist working in photography, collage, film, book art, installation. And this is my exhibition here at Oshagan Art Gallery called How the World Might Be. It's kind of my reflection on legacies of violence in different places around the world, specifically connected to my own history as an Armenian with a particular trajectory to the diaspora and to the homeland. Imagined futures, there's a part of this exhibition that imagines what a future could be, and looking at diasporic presence. So it's a very multi-dimensional, multi-layered exhibition, and it's very interconnected. So the different works, for instance, see the work here, this is the work that looks at, imagines the future for Artsakh, or Shushi specifically. The images here are residents of Shushi that I photographed in 2012 for a different project. And now these residents of Shushi are placed against, they foreground ancient Armenian illuminated manuscript pages. The idea here is to bring together the history that's represented by the manuscripts, by that text, by the script, by the writing, the narration, the story, that is the Armenian story in that region, the indigenous story, bring it together with the residents who used to be in Shushi but have now been kicked out of Shushi because now there's the occupation of Artsakh and Shushi and exile from the land. So I kind of imagine bringing that together, again, creating a new future that doesn't exist currently. So that work has got the script, and the ancient script is connected to the work here, the handwriting of very well-known author Grigor Validian, who writes today in the diaspora. He's the leading Armenian author in Western Armenian, who's dedicated all his life to writing in Western Armenian. So his script is connected to the script, the ancient script. And he's doing essentially the same thing, writing the narrative of his life, his experience, his community. And this installation here is kind of a monument to his effort to retain that language. The monument idea here is that not only the script, but it's an idea that the script can be nourished and maintained because, as you know, Western Armenian, as a result of the genocide of 1915, is now on the UN endangered languages list. So it's on the verge of vanishing. So the idea of this monument is a monument to unvanish the language, to give it presence, to give it life, to give it standing in a space, to give it presence. Plurival kere antin giligian misel. Norsis, Noradana, Normarash, Noramanos, Nordomarza, Nor Yagenda. So as textը Գրիգոր Վլադյանը գրած է Մուչամուդի ինքը ուրեմն ինքը Բեյրութեն է։ Ես երուք սա Բեյրութեն ենք։ Ինքը ցկած է ավելի կամոք ես պատրաստվին երեսել։ So ինքը իր քրության հետ քրության մեջ կվերաթարնալի մանանի վանքին քրությունները ասիգա ուրեմն Մուչամուդի մեջ ինքը ճամփորդությունը կնարակրի քիշլական թվականներում երբ որ ինքը երեխա մներ։ Ուրեմն գվերագեն կանացնե գվերագանքնե ամբողջ կյանքը Ստյուրքյան կյանքը, որ հետևանքն է աղեդեն հետո հայեր հոն հաստատվեցան, որ Մուչամուդ հաստատվեցան անշուշտ և հոն 3 սերունդ արդեն գոյություն ուներ, անդող մասին է գրան։ Եվ իմ կորձս տալ, որ քիրք մնե, որ հրադարագեցիք միասին, Մուչամուդի նգարներն են, դեմում են նույն մտահոգություններով, նույն Ստյուրքյան ներգայությանը մասին խոսիլ է, իր ամեն This work is called the Beirut Memory Project. So now the whole exhibition takes place in 2 different sites, Beirut and Artsakh. So this work brings together current day photographs. These are black and white art photographs that I took currently on my project. And then embeds in the photograph in different places photographs from the past. So I was born in Beirut, and we had to flee the war in 1975. I was a child, and so there's this presence that for me that's very critical and impactful disruption of my life. That leaving Beirut and coming to the United States and growing up here. And so this work is about looking at that rupture, because it was a rupture for me. There was also as well a rupture, a collective rupture, right? So it's not only my own personal history, but there's a collective history also for Armenians who were there, had to leave. War disrupted our whatever life community we had at the time, and we went into defense mode. And so this work kind of creates a bridge between the past, the present, and the past, but looking at it from the present. And it tries to invert sort of this narrative. There's this historical narrative that things are going to move forward, but it tries to create a nonlinear narrative by bringing these two pieces together. And it's also ambiguous because it's almost sometimes you look at it and you think it's actually maybe part of the picture. It's a mural kind of. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of subverts your narrative, your perception also, and then it speaks to perception of the past and how we perceive the past and the relationship of past to presence. Here my father and my brother in the back, and this is the camp, the Sanjak camp that's being destroyed now. They're rebuilding that area. And this is one of the more important pictures. This is a library at the Jamaran school in Beirut. So this is sort of the cover of the exhibition, and the exhibition asks what might be, or how the world might be, and the two ways it can be. You have books and culture and art, or you have destruction and war and death. So those are two, which direction, what might be, what the world might be. It's kind of represented in this. So Asika Beiruti Masin Filmaneri, Western Armenian, which is my indigenous native language, but I've kind of lost touch with it. It's still very much alive in Beirut, especially in Buchambu, in its own peculiar dialect, but it's very much alive. And image-based work can't speak to language, and so that's why I did some video, and I created this kind of fractured 3-channel film. That's the idea, is to bring the language, the singing, as you can hear, into the gallery space. This is very important for me. All these works are interconnected. Each can be shown individually, separately, but when you bring them together, it adds in multiple ways to the meaning or to the articulation of diasporic presence that I'm trying to address. The next series in this exhibition are these what I call the Artsakh scrolls. Okay, so in form and in shape, they're connected to the scrolls that we saw that were hanging, fabric scrolls of Grigor Gilia's handwriting. What I've done is I've taken cutouts of Artsakh, pictures from Artsakh. So from 1999 to 2007, I photographed in Artsakh and I published a book. So the cutouts from my book, from all the photos that I took there, are what make up these pieces of these scrolls. And the idea here is sort of, because now there is occupation, it's been colonized, the people have been scattered, they've been othered in their own land, even though some of them maybe didn't move because they wasn't all colonized, but basically they've been scattered across they're no longer connected to the land the way they were. But also, it scatters them, but also brings them together in this kind of panorama of life. So all these images that are from all over the place, they come together on one panoramic kind of possibility of life in these three different scrolls. And also the background of the scroll is very, very important. The background of the scroll are from notebooks by my grandfather's notebooks. Oshagan, who was also an author, who was a genocide survivor. He was arrested with the other intellectuals in Istanbul, but he escaped, and he lived in diaspora, and he wrote it. So the pages are from his notebook, and on this piece here, it's actually his handwriting in the background. So, what happened to him 100 years ago is kind of happening now to Artsakh. Colonization, occupation, death, war. So the idea is there's a historic arc that connects today to his notebooks, to his handwriting, to his writing. This kind of historical arc of connectivity that says that, look, not much has changed. It's, even though there have been ups and downs, Artsakh was liberated for a while, but finally, this historical arc is not different. In Beirut, it's not different. In Artsakh, it's not different. I entangle time and space. Space specifically, I entangle in these exhibitions spirit and diaspora and homeland. To me, they are very closely connected. They are the same space for us as Armenians. We shouldn't be thinking of them separately, thinking of them as this idea of ardiyagir or I am very, very much against this idea of right. It's mediyagir, connected, each one in its own way, its own life, its own presence. And so I interconnect them, I entangle them here in this exhibition to make that very important point to make that. So we realize, especially because the diaspora is usually put on the back burner, usually Armenia, it's always Armenia. I think we need to treat the diaspora as something permanent, as something critically important for the survival of our nation, and give it the importance we give to Armenia. It isn't just land. There's so much more that the diaspora offers and has created for our nation. So we have to recognize that, and they're all interconnected. Շատ կարևոր է որ երեսի վրա չսկենք չմոռանանք հեոլավ հիմա Շուշի գնաց անցանք մենք ուրիշ հարցեր ունենք պիտի մոռանանք կամ Արցախի կամ տարբեր շրջանները շատ կարևոր է որ խոսի ասմանելու մասին արվեստը ստեղծել շուրջը որովհետև ով ավելի բարձր կխոսի չէ ով ավելի ցայնը հանե անկան ավելի պիտի լսվի աշխարհի մեջ եւ եթե մենք նոր մնանք պիտի չի լսվենք եւ մեր հարցերը երբեք դեպի չի կրնան հասնեն so yes politician չեմ ապամության բայց ես արվեստագետ ասպորտ եւ իմ բամությունը Շուշիի հետ կապված է դառնալով անքի ժամանակ անցնելով մարդոց հետ կանի դարբեր պրոջեկտ ունելով հոն ինձ համար շատ կարեւոր է որ ասպորտի մեջտեղ կա եւ խոսվի Շուշիի մասին հայկական անցյալ եւ հայկական ներկայություն հոն հարավոր հազարավոր տարի